Hi, I'm Brittany Swims.
And I'm Christopher E. Swims. We've been married going on almost 3 years. Be 3 years August the 11th. We met at, always had a crush on her when I faked him to my grandfather's church. And I would go in there to see her and stuff like that. Wouldn't speak to her. She would come in at Ruby Tuesday and stuff, and I still wouldn't speak to her. Finally, I worked up enough guts to ask her on the date. She said yes, then she came with some foolishness. Saying
No,
that
I said I was staying
lost.
lost. That means he had to come find me.
So I took that as a no.
That's
So
what
I
the
stopped
missionary said to
contacting
do.
her. Stopped contacting her because she listened to the church mother. So I stopped contacting her. Then we worked our way back. Her mom got sick and ended up dying. So we came back together. So we've been together ever since. And her life has not been the same since she's been free.
Oh, okay. I'll let you have that. You got it.
My name is Michael Burrows, and this is my wife, Chanel Burrows. We've been married 10 years as of May 2004. I met Chanel here at Hopewell doing prayer. It was every morning we meet at about 6 o'clock to come to the church to pray. And I would yard from my apartment, and she would be in her car. And it was one day that we met here at the church, and she was outside. It was cold. She asked if I wanted to come in. And I said no, I was just going to wait for the door to open. And the first thing I remember is her rolling the window back up, going right back to sleep.
Hello, we the Bakers. I am Andre Baker Sr.
And I'm Stephanie Baker.
And we've been married 16 years. And what story do I have for us? I can say at the beginning, I was kind of still caught up on the single life, and Stephanie, she pretty much helped me get it together, slow me down, and help me appreciate the value of a family man and not just being a young man out there wilding out. And I will always be grateful for her for just letting me understand the value of family and being a father and a husband.
You know, you always say that, but I can't put anything in you that's not already there. I just require you to meet my expectations.
Well, hello, my name is Chester Hood, and this is my lovely wife, Magnolia Hood. And she's going to share a little bit of how we first met.
We met at church.
Wow.
You disagree?
We did.
Okay. We met at church 18, 19 years ago. And yeah.
I thought you was going to tell the story.
We usually disagree on the story, but we met at church, at our home church in Chicago. And we dated for a season and got married almost 13 years ago, this July.
Okay, she turned me down twice. It is on the third time that she finally said yes and say I do. And we have been building a legacy since. So that's how we met.
Antoinette Lindsay, and we met about 3 years ago. I was in another relationship, and it wasn't pleasing in God's eyes, and he broke it off and sent me the best thing that ever happened to me. And it's a little brief history of our relationship, how we got together.
I am Chase Miller, and this is my wife, Dominique Miller. We have been married for 9 wonderful years. We met while we were both in high school. We were introduced by my foster sister. Went to the beach one day. She really liked my body and expressed an interest in me. And in her. I'm not making this up, this is the truth. And, we started talking to one another, went to prom, and the rest is history.
From the book, it discussed how men want respect, women want love. And so for us, that was a chapter that we really kind of wrestled with those things and seeing what ways does she want me to love her and not me doing it how I think she wants it, but to ask her, how do you want me to love you? And then for me, the whole idea of respect and what that means for me. So that was challenging, which we're still working on now. But it's one of those things that you just have to continue to work at until you get it, or if you ever get it.
For me, I have to say, if you love someone, then you generally will respect them, just out of love, kind of like, I know we're talking about marriage, but kind of like a father and a son. Like, by my son loving me for being his father, they will automatically respect me because I'm their dad. So by her being my wife and my partner in life, then automatically gonna love her. So I have to show her the respect that she deserves as being my partner.
When I think about it, especially in terms of this book has been a journey, and it challenged everything that I thought I knew about love and respect, and it took it to another level. So I always knew that I loved him, but maybe I really didn't take the time to explore how I needed to give him unconditional respect. That's not something that we're taught in society. You know, we walk around and think that, you know, you're gonna respect me. So respect is earned, it's not just given. And so this book has challenged me and sharpened me and made me know what a true marriage, a godly marriage looks like, and how I am supposed to respect my husband.
I think now after reading the book, I think the biggest word that could distinguish, that could kind of couple them both would be unconditional. Unconditional love and unconditional respect. Whether that means him loving me the way Christ loved the church, or me respecting him the way God tells me to respect him in the Bible.
I think about what it means for a man to love his wife and, unconditionally loving her for who she is, and just striving to be all that I can for her, making her feel safe and secure, making her feel that she is the only woman on the face of the earth. Just all those things that make a woman feel like a woman. I feel like that's my job to do.
You go through life single, alone. Everything is by your standards, by what you want to do. And I wasn't allowing him, and I didn't want to say I'm castrating him, but I wasn't allowing him to be the man, be the leader. And this book is kind of like not a thorn in my side, but it kind of pricked me. Every time I read it, I would have to take breaks because it was like they were getting on me, and it was saying that I needed to respect my husband more. And like I find myself now just texting him randomly and saying, you know what, I love you. Thank you for being a provider, and thank you for, watching over, covering us. And yeah, it was a prick.
I think for the most part, when we looked at the way the book was laid out, it just really enhanced what we had already been working towards as far as the respect of one another and enhancing the ability to love one another. I mean, the attributes of the book, which talk about the respect factor for the husband and the love factor for the wife, it was something that we've been striving for since we've been married, is to get a better handle on it. And the book just made it more clear as to different ways that we could do that.
Our marriage was basically just running around with our heads cut off like chickens, not knowing anything, and starting from the ground up and trying to live with one another and figure out, how each other grew up and trying to compromise in different areas. And it was a struggle early on, and we're still adjusting, but we have made it pretty far. Wow, after reading this book and doing the book, it's a lot of wisdom that was passed down to us from these other veteran marriages that we got a chance to speak to, and they really put a lot of knowledge into our bank, and we used that to grow our marriage.
It was going at a steady speed. It had some bumps in it. Communication wasn't the greatest, and I think that that's something that we continuously strive to work on. I didn't understand where he was coming from, and he didn't understand where I was coming from.
She wants closeness. I realize that when she gets home from work, if I'm on the phone, I get off the phone. So when she comes in, I can engage her in her day and what's going on rather than trying to hold two different conversations. You know, simple things. You watch TV. I may want to sit in my chair, but I'll go sit next to her and we watch TV together. When she wants that closeness, which the book talked about, and trying to do better at those things.
And the respect, the whole authority. I have a strong personality, and I know I needed to calm it down when it comes to my husband and our relationship. And I need to make sure, remember that, you know, he's the man, and the whole respect, the whole authority and hierarchy, and that I reverence him higher than just some random off the street.
I think for me, the biggest thing as how I feel respect for him is just letting him lead. That has been somewhat of an issue for me since we've gotten married, because I'm so used to doing what I want and not really being accountable to anybody. And so just being able to step back and let him to go to him for answers as opposed to me trying to fix everything myself.
I think what I'm learning to do, because I think the biggest thing that this book taught me is that I had to kind of revamp my definition of respect. And I think I'm learning to respect him more as it relates to respecting his abilities, respecting his role in his leadership. I think one of the examples in the book was when a husband is not respected at home, but he's praised and respected and admired outside the home, and that did something for me. So I'm learning to make sure that what he experiences in the form of adoration and respect and recognition outside the home matches what happens in the home as well.
So I spell love L-O-V-E. It didn't change. I believe that the L represents loving her throughout the challenges that come along with marriage. O, open to respecting her views and open to seeing her perspective more than just how I perceive she feels. V, vowing that we're in this together and that it doesn't matter what we go through, that we can see it through. And E, I'm encouraged that we're going to see it to the end. And so I spell it love, L-O-V-E.
I spell respect to Chase by understanding and knowing that he has authority in our home and that we're partners in this, and respecting him as a man overall, allowing him to lead and guide even when I don't want to be led and guided.
I spell love first with an L, then an O, and a V, and an E. But when I'm not spelling it the phonetic way, I look at it from the standpoint of allowing her to be a woman, in the sense that honoring her emotions, being an open vessel for her to release herself, an open ear, and like I said, it's that security blanket, that loving character, that loving figure in her life. Things like that ultimately are what I look at when I think about love.
I would say just trying to see stuff from her perspective, and not always from what I think, but seeing how she feels about something, how she sees something. That's always through coming together, and not just seeing it out of my eyes, but seeing it from her eyes as well. And then being able to understand why she sees things a certain way that I may not.
I would say the importance is trying to understand where Anthony is coming from. That can be very hard for me because I have my own way in mind about doing things, and he has his own way in mind about doing things. And so, like he said, trying to adjust to figure out how we can come together to agree. I would say that would be the hardest part and my pink lens is trying to see his blue lenses.
I have to say, seeing from the blue lens, I'm real simple, where that I don't like to discuss issues we have for a long period of time. You know, I just like to fix things real quick. I'm just kind of laid back, but I think that's part of my blue lens. I don't like to put a lot into stuff that I think is a waste of time, but I learned from the book that I have to see from the pink lens that even though it might seem like a waste of time to me, it's important to her to get to the bottom of things. So I have to be patient and learn to give more energy in talking about things and working it out instead of just trying to brush it off and move on.
The Bible says in Ephesians, you know, for women to honor their husbands and to revere them, and for husbands to love the wife as Christ loves the church, which we know how much God loves his church. So we have the same mandate, which are things that are impossible to do without the help of God. Can't do it alone.
Some couples already hit on it, but it is that unconditional factor, and it's the fact that God being love, he's showing us the example of how to love his other child. You know, we're all his children, and so not looking at the other person as a possession or something that belongs to us, but someone that belongs to God and is his child, and we should treasure and love them just as he treasures and loves them as well.
Yeah, I would have to, honestly say though, in the beginning, whether it was through the time that we were dating or through our beginning of our marriage, that I thought submission was a curse word too, because I was raised by a matriarchal family, and I was raised to be, you be strong and you be independent and you do this and you do that. And so a lot of the things he would say and do completely went against that idea that I had of a strong woman. But submission is not so much of allowing someone to walk over you, but it's allowing someone to lead you, allowing someone to not tell you what to do, but having somebody to follow. And after I realized that I can submit to my husband because I know he submits to Christ, that sometimes I don't submit to what he says. I submit to the Christ in him. And I think that's one component that I had to come to learn, that a lot of times I might not agree with what he says, or I might not agree with what he feels we should do, but my agreement is in the fact that I know that he's following Christ. And if he's chasing Christ and I'm following him, then we can't go wrong. And so I think that's the biggest thing, just knowing that if Christ can submit to God, then I can definitely submit to my husband and not feel like he's, lording over me or making me do something I don't want to do or anything like that. But it's more of knowing that he's the leader, and I'm going to let him lead as I lead too, because he'll submit to me sometimes too. And so I think when it's mutual, it's a much better understanding.
Goes back to the whole aspect of she want to respect and me want to love, and being able.
I won't respect you because I don't feel loved.
Oh.
I don't want respect. I want love. You want respect. Sorry.
That's what I said. Thank you for correcting me. See, it's fine. Help us out in those situations. Thank you. So yeah, go finish saying because you was right.
No, you were going. That was good.
Yeah. So that being able to give her the love that she wants, so that I can be able to get the respect that I need.
Because sometimes when I don't feel like he's loving me enough, or what I need him to, the way I need him to love me, I'll do things not to spitefully, but kind of spitefully hurt him and disrespect him.
Busy cycle was definitely relevant to us in our stage of marriage and where we were. One of the things that I was working on a lot was my communication with her, and that caused a lot of arguments, my lack of communication, and trying to see things her way and attack the argument that way and try to figure out how to go about the situation, putting myself in her shoes. At first I wasn't doing that, and that caused a crazy cycle to just keep going around and around. But after reading on that and gaining the wisdom and knowledge from that, I think we got better with how to attack our arguments and to stop the crazy cycle finally.
Sure, and I would say from my perspective, I think it would also be communication, because with me, I'll have things going on in the background, but I only say this one thing. And so when one thing happens, he gets all these other things that I never said anything about. And so I think that goes along with the communication piece. But I think also submission and coming to understand what that means and what that looks like, with him being the head and me now being under a whole nother man. Because I was out there doing it for myself, even under my dad's guidance. When I moved out of the house, I was doing it. And so now I have to submit to him and let him do it and trust that he has that. So I think that was another piece, being in the crazy cycle, not knowing how to do that.
Well, when I looked at the book and the structure of it, the biggest thing that stood out to me was the compatibility and working together with one another. Because in that, it allows you to both show love, sacrifice, and caring aspects all at the same time. Because us being inclusive in our decision making, it causes us to take ourselves out of it and look through those different colored lenses, so that when we come to a decision, it's a unified decision and not just one person overpowering his authority on someone else.
Well, it really clarified and brought into focus for me that what I'm doing with him is not really for him or about him. It's about my unconditional obedience to what God says. So the end result may be that he enjoys the respect that I give him, but my goal is not to do that for him. My goal is to respect and honor what God says and give my obedience to him and make him glorified. And I have a happy husband as a result of that.
Well, the energizing cycle for me was like one of the best cycles of this book, because it taught me how to keep the spark or the flame alive in my marriage, and not just so much as sexually, but the companionship component, and always being willing to share and value him as a person.
Yeah, for me, it's ultimately understanding that in this marriage, it's not, like I said, it's not just sexual, it's not just about making a family, but she's really just my best friend, you know, and taking the steps and the tools to strengthen that friendship, whether it be through intimacy, whether it be through time spent, whether it be through open and honest communication. She's everything. And so just really doing what we need to do to keep that going and maintaining that through whatever may come our way.
Yes, so you know what you're getting into, or you know what the plan prior to. A lot of books, or this book in particular, we probably should have read prior to getting married.
I think this book is a good book because it gives you the ability to see things through the other lens, but I wouldn't say that it's a book for everybody, because some people look at things differently and they're more tied to the pink lens than the blue lens and vice versa. So it could be a good book given the aspect that they know what they're getting into before they get the book, and don't expect the book to dictate their life as far as marriage goes.
Absolutely. You know, marriage is, from the outside, it looks like it's, all good. It's fun, you have a partner, but there are times when it's not good, and you have to lean on each other and learn to grow together and work on your relationship. So this book I would definitely recommend to anybody who's considering marriage, because it is not for the faint of heart. It will prepare you for the times that are not as pleasant as others. And it will ultimately strengthen your relationship. So you'll have the tools that you need to have a successful marriage.
Yes, get the book. Get the book. It definitely helped us. We came in, like I said, just not knowing anything about marriage, not knowing how to treat one another, what love and respect really was, and how God sees it. And this book definitely helped us improve our marriage and the people that we talk to. And so yes, I would say definitely get the book.
Absolutely. I think it's a book for everybody. I think if you are a couple that's been married for 9, 20, or 50 years, I think what the book does is it brings back a perspective that may have been lost. I think that it allows individuals to really just key in on some of the things that you don't normally think about every day. If you're a young couple, these are things you need to start thinking about as you start figuring each other out, that you may not know off the bat, because we all know that first year especially can be a little tough because you're kind of coming into your own as a couple. If you're looking to get married, it helps you to understand, am I willing to do these things? Am I willing to not think about myself anymore and open up in such a way that I can do this and be a good wife or a good husband? So I think it's good all across the board in that regard.
As I alluded to earlier, the one thing it has caused us to do is to really take that step back and evaluate the decision-making process and the things that we want to do, and take each other into consideration when we make those finalized decisions. So for me, I think it's a good tool when it comes to building communication and compatibility.
With me, it improved me as far as my patience, as far as understanding that things that might not seem that important to me is important to her, and just care about her views on things and her feeling more than I have in the past, and try to see out of the pink lens a little more than just my blue.
Yeah, I think it has strengthened our relationship in that it gives us avenues and tools to, when we're on that crazy cycle, to shorten it, to put whatever's out there on the table, be able to discuss it in love, heated discussions sometimes, but it gives us the tools to shorten that crazy cycle and get back to loving each other the way that we need.
I would say that we've taken time to try to better communicate and understand one another from the pink and blue lenses. Actually having conversations instead of separating ourselves and not dealing with the issue. And keeping in mind that the unconditional love and unconditional respect is what we need and what we desire and what God is pleased with.
I think that for the couples that went through the book, I think that they are more open with each other. I think that areas where they were struggling in or having some issues, they are now taking and applying the tools that we've learned in this book, being able to say, hey, I realize that the crazy cycle is starting. I'm not going to get on it with you, but let's talk about what the root of the problem is. And I've seen our couples be more loving towards one another and more affectionate, and husbands really putting forth that extra effort to make sure that their wives know that they are loved, and wives honoring and respecting their husbands, giving them the praise that they're due.